What's up, Vault Hunters? I'm Sh55, and this is Ultimate Vault Hunters. Our 5th episode is on deck, and it's going to be in Zane. Whether you're joining us on Twitch or YouTube for the premiere, or listening along on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, or Spotify, we thank you for joining in and listening to the program. For those of you who want to watch Ultimate Vault Hunters, as soon as it goes live, you can hear it first bi-weekly on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific on Twitch and YouTube. On this week's Ultimate Vault Hunters, we're joined by a gentleman with a rather unique name who just achieved Twitch partner status. The community seems to be flourishing with those lately. One of the most requested people to be on the show in the YouTube comments, and we're very happy to have him here with us today. Here is ThiccFilA. Dude, ThiccFilA, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so glad that you're here. How's it going?
So nice to meet you guys. Thank you for having me. One thing I want to say before the show starts is please ignore like the mad scientist haircut. It's a bit of some quarantine hair. I've been stuck in the house for like a couple months now. So that I just want to get that out of the way.
I feel like everybody's got quarantine hair right now. I've seen some crazy people with some crazy hairdos and even some people letting their partners cut their hair. So that's interesting. I would like to see the result of that. Are you going to buzz it? Are you going to go short?
You know, you got to get the like nice fade cut on the side, and you know, you guys will like it when I get it. Don't worry.
Get like a mohawk thing going on, just like right in the middle. Let's go. I would love to see
it. I could probably rock it.
I bet you could. Okay, so we're gonna find out more about your build double barrel shortly, but as always for our new guests, we're gonna take a few minutes to get into who you ThiccFilA are.
Awesome.
First things first. Where did your name ThiccFilA come from anyway, aside from the obvious answer, of course?
So yeah, it is a play on words, obviously. Right. So you know how like when you are when you're streaming, Liz, and you see someone with like a really funny name in the chat? Yeah. I was that guy. And that's where the name comes from. That's really it.
That's it.
That's it.
Is it like a play? Do you like thick things?
No, like it's totally just a play on words. It's just supposed to be funny. I had a bunch of friends. I was like, you know, I watch Twitch a lot. Yeah. So like, you know, in a different communities I was in, and I was like, hey guys, should I change my name to ThiccFilA? And someone was like, yeah, do it. And then I posted a YouTube video, and for some reason, it's the name I have now. So there we go.
Well, what was your name before you were ThiccFilA?
I had a couple different usernames. I never really had one that stuck, to be honest with you. So just there's like a bunch I could go into. I don't really have one specifically that I like that much. So you're just embarrassed of them. Got it. We'll keep it private. It's okay. Yeah, a little bit. ThiccFilA is the least embarrassing one somehow.
I love it, though. I love it. I love that I get to call you Thick.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so how did you get started in gaming?
I mean, like anyone else, you know, when I was 8 years old, I used to wake up extra early before my parents did so I could get some Xbox in. You guys ever play Fusion Frenzy on original Xbox? No. It was a great game. I used to play like the Oddworld games, if you ever heard of those. Okay. The Turok games actually were really great. So just all those games, and the rest is history, just like anyone else. Just love video gaming.
So when and how did you first get involved with the Borderlands series?
So actually, I never really played BL2 Endgame or like BL1 Endgame like a lot of the other people in the community did.
Me neither, yeah.
Yeah, so what happened was when I was in, I don't know if it was middle school or high school, around those weird years, you know. But one of my good friends was like, hey, there's this awesome co-op game. Let's play it. And it was BL1. And I picked Mordecai. I liked sniping, and I just got really into it. It's just, you know, one of those games I'm always like drawn to.
What about, you said you played Borderlands 2 as well? Or you just didn't play the end game?
No, yeah, I also played Borderlands 2 because I really enjoyed BL1 with my friend. Right. So as soon as we were done with that, I played a couple more playthroughs by myself. Right. And I actually enjoyed playing Brick a lot. I never thought Brick would be a character I liked, but when I played him, it was just awesome. And then when BL2 came out, I went and bought it. And that's awesome. I played that a ton of the way through as well. And, you know, my parents never got me the DLCs. So.
Oh, I was just going to ask you what your favorite DLC was, because my favorite DLC is Tiny Tina DLC. So.
Yeah, that's something my stream keeps telling me to do is go play Tiny Tina, go play Fight for Sanctuary. So I might end up doing that at some point.
You really should. The Tiny Tina DLC is super worth it and hilarious. Like, it's amazing. Like, if anything, just to see Butt Stallion, like,
Yeah.
Just, you would love it.
I gotta download a save file and do it.
You totally should. I highly recommend it. What attracted you most to the Borderlands series?
So it's mainly, like I said, the fantasy aspect of it.
Right.
I used to really be into games like Skyrim and Fallout, and I even played Magic the Gathering, if you know that card game.
Uh-huh.
I just like making combos and just doing a bunch of stuff, and it's just all the different options. I think that just I have a lot of fun with.
Just like making a lot of cool builds and stuff.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Who would you say the community members were who were instrumental in helping you along the way?
So I actually want to shout out a couple kind of well-known names if you are in like the different Borderlands discords and stuff. Spire, Prismatic, Retour, all these guys. Whenever I first started playing this game, I played with a friend again, and then, you know, when your friend gives up the game and you keep playing. So I ended up joining like the official server. I don't know, for those of you who remember the beginning of the game, but Zane wasn't the best off in the beginning of the game. Oh. And I just found this really amazing build where you can just throw infinite grenades and you would actually heal off of them like Moe's.
Really?
As well. And I made a YouTube video. It got a little bit popular, but I went into the official Borderlands Discord in the build section with those guys I mentioned. And basically we all just like maintain build resources and documents and stuff like that. And they totally, like, they introduced me to the math in this game. Like, I didn't know about any of that before those guys. So
we're going to get into that later for sure. I can't wait to hear about that. But how did their build styles have any influence on yours?
So I would say the main influence is their objective way of looking at builds. Right. Like when you just play this game and you don't realize there's like all this stuff behind it, you kind of just pick skills in your skill tree based on like what sounds cool or what feels cool, you know what I mean? But like realistically, there's like objective numbers and like damages they add or like skill synergies. And so that was like a huge influence on how I built stuff from then on.
Awesome. How would you say that they assisted you on your journey to where you are now?
Pretty much all the same stuff. Just the different ways of looking at things. And like I was already into coming up with combos. Like I mentioned Magic the Gathering earlier. Right. I used to like theory craft a ton of different builds with like other friends I had. And it just gave me a different way to look at things, I would say.
Cool. What characters did you main in Borderlands? You said you made Mordecai in Borderlands 1.
And Brick.
Yeah, and then Brick in Borderlands 2. So what about, did you play the pre-sequel?
I didn't play the pre-sequel, actually, because I had another friend I was supposed to play it with, and we just ended up not getting that deep into it, and I never finished it. In Borderlands 2, I actually played Zero.
Oh, nice. Yeah. What about in Borderlands 3? You play Zane mostly?
Zane, 100%.
Is Zane your main character?
I have literally like only played Zane probably until Mayhem 2.0.
Oh my God, like, you're better than me. I have only played Flak. Ooh.
Nice. No, it was like after Mayhem 2.0 came out and there was like all this new stuff. I just started hopping into some of the other characters and they're really fun. Like, you know what I mean?
Who's your second favorite?
Flak.
Really?
Yeah. Fadeaway Flak specifically.
Yeah. That's my jam.
Yeah.
What would you say attracted you to the characters that you like the most?
So when it comes to like Mordecai and Zero, I kind of just like the sniping playstyle, like hang back and be a little more tactical, you know? Mm-hmm. And in a way, that's also what's attracted me to Zane. Before I kind of knew what his character was more about, because he is more of like a gadgets guy and he is kind of a tank with his barrier and stuff. There are definitely some cool tactical things you can do, especially with the clone, which is really cool. But that's also why Fade Flak is my second favorite character, I would say, because just going into Fadeaway and like coming out of Fadeaway and Fade looping and just all of that, it's just really cool to me.
Nice. Yeah, I love Flak Fadeaway. That's my favorite build for sure.
That's why I never knew I would like Brick, but try other characters, guys, because I never knew I would love Brick, and Brick is awesome.
I'm excited to see what you have for Zane too, as well.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you say your favorite element is?
Actually, kinetic and shock, I would say.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't specifically know why I like shock. When it comes to When it comes to kinetic weapons, though, I kind of like how they have higher base damage, and I feel like they're just not looked at as much
Yeah.
because they don't have like any strengths or weaknesses, but that's also why I like them. And in this game, when you add bonus elements to a weapon that already has higher base damage, you get kind of like a nice bonus out of that.
Cool. Does that mean you're partial to Jacobs?
Of course, of course. If it's not one shot, it's not a Jacobs, right?
That's true. What's the element that will be featured prominently in your build double barrel?
Actually, shock damage.
Really?
Yeah, and we'll see that for survivability in some of the different weapon choices, and I'll explain all of that specifically later. There's a reason why we want to use some of the weapons we're using, and shock is like generally the best element for that. And on top of that, the Guardian takedown, they're shielded enemies basically, so shock helps.
Shock does help. That's true. True. Before we delve deep into Borderlands 3, what are some fond memories of builds you had in previous Borderlands games?
So I don't think I have a fond memory specifically of builds because, first of all, I did play those when I was like a lot younger. Like I don't even remember how old I was, maybe like 15 years old. So I didn't build like I build now. But I do got to say, one fond memory of BL2 without any of the DLCs was the Minecraft Easter egg. Do you remember the creeper in BL2?
Yeah. I totally got blown up.
Yeah, me too, a couple times. Every single playthrough, I always just ran for the creeper and the Donkey Kong Bully Mong.
Oh, I don't know if I ever saw that.
I don't know why, but I think it's because I didn't have the DLCs, but I always just looked for the Easter eggs online and stuff.
Donkey Mong.
Yeah, Donkey Mong.
That's cool. Okay, so what would you say that the spark that leads you to creating a full build is?
Weirdly enough, I think that's just kind of what I like doing anyway and in other games. So I think that's just kind of inside myself to go do that and try out as many different things as possible. Like oftentimes I'll post a build on YouTube and you got to work up the title like best build ever. And sometimes it is like pretty much like some of the best stuff you can do on the character. But literally the day after that, I'll be working on something else. It's just because I like doing and trying different things.
Cool. Would you say that it's focused on different roles like support, melee, range damage, speedrunning?
So all of those things, like I said, I basically just like trying a bunch of different things. This build specifically is probably the least amount of support, probably mostly for speedrunning and just pumping out a ton of damage is the build we're going over today.
Cool.
But I like doing all those things.
Exciting.
Sure. Yeah.
Are there more specific builds crafted around weapons or gear, artifacts, relics, skill tree talents?
So one thing I want to point out that I think is one of the more important things about creating a build, besides like the synergies between gear and stuff, is just, like I said, just trying everything. There's so many like synergies in this game that I would have never found if I didn't just try stuff. Like even if it doesn't look good, there's some builds that I've posted recently even where if I just showed you the skill tree without any context, you would be like, what are you doing? And there's so many random things that you would never guess worked. And I would say a lot of people in the community, when you see like this different stuff pop up that becomes so popular, is just random stuff that people tried out and it worked.
Do you think that's probably influenced by some of your friends from Discord as well?
For sure. But also, like I said, I just like to try out a bunch of stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, sometimes I find like an artifact that has some great passives on it, and I'm just like, I'm going to build a whole crit build now, or I'm going to build a whole like weapon damage build now.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. It's like finding that one synergy you love and then building all around that.
What would you say is the single most important aspect of creating a successful build?
So it's like I said, it's just trying out a bunch of different stuff. It's kind of like there is a certain balance between survivability and damage output. You definitely want to maximize your damage output and, not worry about survivability so much, and then kind of find the balance until you can survive. And just try stuff. I swear, just try a bunch of stuff. You'll find stuff you never knew was good. And It just turns out to be great.
What would you say the overall theme of your double barrel build is?
It's named after the capstone of Zane's red tree, the clone tree, and it is all about the digiclone. Since launch, that's actually one reason I gravitated towards Zane in the first place. I wanted to run clone and Calm Cool Collected, and I know there's some people who know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm sure that's what drew them towards Zane. And it was good until you got into some like Mayhem 3 and stuff, and it started to fall off a little bit. And just the recent clone buffs is just a perfect time to hop back into it.
Cool. I'm excited to hear about it. Let's get into the build. All right, so let's dig right into Double Barrel. Can you tell me everything about the skill tree and where we're going to start as well?
Yes, so we are going to start in the red skill tree, which is the clone skill tree. Okay. And I think it's the best place to start because that is what the build is focusing on. Okay. So pretty much the first skill on the top left is called Synchronicity. This skill basically just gives you gun damage while your action skills are active, so it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Next, we are going over into the top right skill. This is called Borrowed Time. This gives you action skill duration, which is also pretty straightforward. You know, we want our clone and our drone up for as long as possible.
And we want 5 points in both of those?
Yeah, 5 points in both of those, just because they're pretty much just your base skills where you kind of want to start with Zane usually. Even for leveling, they're also very awesome. Cool. Next, in the second row, we're going to go to Donnybrook. Over on the left, it is a kill skill. Whenever Zane kills an enemy or your clone or drone, notably, you basically get gun damage and health regen. And your clone actually gets this gun damage and health regen as well. So we went 5 points into this because this is actually one of the only skills that also gives our clone gun damage. So it's pretty important.
Cool.
Then going over to Duct Tape Mod, which is the skill on the right in the second skill tree. This basically gives Zane a chance to fire a grenade from the first shot of his weapon. So like the very first bullet when you reload, or with COV guns, if you let the heat cool all the way down, it's the first shot. Basically, I only put 3 points into this because ultimately it's not a good like skill investment. Like if you spend the full 5 points there, and it also has a cooldown, but it is very nice to just get extra grenades out there whenever we can. And also, you know, there's not many other places we really want to spend these points in the skill tree, and we got to get down the tree too.
Okay, cool. So is that like having like a little like one shot grenade launcher kind of?
Yeah, kind of in a way. Yeah. That's cool. I like to use pea grenades too to get some more debuffs out on the enemies all around. Yeah, piss grenades.
Nice.
So next we go down to that middle skill point all alone is Quick Breather. Whenever Zane swaps places with his clone, basically your shields will begin recharging, but also when you swap places, this will heal your clone as well. So it's just some really good sustain for getting your shields up and also healing your clone, because your clone does get some health regen from Donnybrook, but especially when he gets hit by like a diadem in the Guardian takedown and they chunk him pretty hard, you can swap places and get him back up.
Cool.
So next, down in the fourth row, we go to the first skill, Pocket Full of Grenades. Now, this is actually a kill skill, which gives you grenade regeneration. And this is important for later on, which we'll get into. But basically, you only need one skill point here because it is a kill skill. And we are actually using the CN Dead class mod, which boosts your kill skills. It makes them a lot stronger. So you only need 1 point here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Real quick. Do the grenades from Duct Tape Mod come out of your grenades, or is that just a bonus grenade that comes out?
So Duct Tape Mod actually does take from your grenade count, but funnily enough, it will work if you have 0 grenades. Duct Tape Mod will.
Really? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it just still works.
I was just interested. The Pocket Full of Grenades made me think of that, so that's cool.
Yeah. You really only need it for the skill we're going to talk about in a second.
Okay, sure.
So next in the same column, we have Old U. Basically, if you're in Fight for Your Life, you can press your action skills key while you're in Fight for Your Life, and it basically destroys your clone and picks you up out of Fight for Your Life. So I'm guessing, you know, you can see how this could come handy in a lot of situations. It's pretty much a no-brainer. You got to take that skill.
Right.
After that, we take Supersonic Man. This gives us movement speed. And not only that, but we can actually get some damage out of the skill for another skill later that we'll talk about as well. And just having movement speed actually helps your survivability in this game, like literally being able to dodge bullets and move around fast. It's really useful.
Are there any other synergistic skills that were going to come up having to do with movement speed? Because I know there's some like an Amara. Okay. I'll just wait. I won't spoil it.
No worries. Absolutely though. Movement speed is like Zane's bread and butter.
Awesome. Cool. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. So next, just a single point in this skill tree is Boom Enhance. This is why we need Pocket Full of Grenades. Basically, when Zane summons his clone, the clone can actually consume up to 3 grenades and he'll get a whole load of bonuses. He'll get gun damage, he will get maximum health, he'll get fire rate, reload speed, and more action skill duration based on how many grenades he consumes. Ow. So that's why we need that point and pocket full of grenades. And even though, you know, the character who doesn't throw grenades, he still uses them.
Cool. This is cool. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next? What's next?
Finally, we get to the capstone double barrel. What this does is it gives your clone a copy of your weapon. So, you know, think Salvador, right? Don't worry, you can't crit swap it, okay? You can't crit swap it. Don't worry. But it's a very awesome skill, giving your clone your weapon. And since they recently buffed him, he's just pretty powerful now. And we can invest in giving our clone a ton of damage. And yeah, we're basically the support character. Our clone is who we're focusing on.
Amazing. Okay, so that's it for our red tree.
So going into the blue tree, we will start on the top left again in Violent Speed. This gives you, basically, it's another kill skill. Zane's blue tree is full of kill skills, just to say ahead of time. A lot of these are just kill skills, and we are using the See Undead class mod, which helps activate your kill skills. It's kind of like Bounty Hunter on Flak. I know you know that one, Liz, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's what Zane does, is kill skills, and he runs fast. And this will make sense for the other skill in the first row. But basically, this just gives us more movement speed.
And 5 points into that one, right?
Yeah, five full points.
Great.
We pretty much want to max out this tree. The next skill is called Cold Bore. Now, this one is a skill I like. If someone doesn't actually like the skill, you could spend these 3 points elsewhere. These are actually 3, like we can max out the tree without spending the 3 points here, but I like this skill. It gives you some extra swap speed, which actually comes in handy for a lot of different situations. And it also gives you bonus cryo damage for the first shot of your whatever weapon you swap to. So this can come in handy with launchers and snipers even. And there's a lot of cool things you can do with this skill. And it's really handy for like killing raid bosses really fast. Because because there's different techniques even against Wotan. It's just a pretty cool skill. And just like being able to swap through weapons is super handy, especially like in Fight for Your Life and stuff like that. But like I said, if you don't want this skill, you could actually put these couple points into the green tree. Ready for Action is what I would recommend next. Or even maxing out Playing Dirty, or even Praemunitus in the red tree, grabbing some extra magazine size. These 3 points are kind of floater points. Like I said, we don't actually need these to get to the capstone of the blue tree.
I was going to ask you. You totally hit the nail on the head there. Awesome. All right. And that's only 3 points. Why only 3 points?
Like I said, these are just the 3 floater points in a way. I'm pretty sure we get 2 capstones and then we have 3 extra points.
Okay, cool.
So that's the only reason. It's just not high priority. So then moving on from that, we are going to go into Violent Momentum. This is the strongest gun damage skill on Zane, 5 full points. And that's why we max out the speed skills, Violent Speed and Supersonic Man. Basically, this skill can get you ridiculous amounts of gun damage. If you are sliding on a snowdrift while you shoot your shot, you can actually get upwards of like 900% gun damage or something insane. But it sounds crazy, but at the same time, like think about how hard it is to hit someone sliding on a snowdrift.
Yeah.
So there is like a skill cap when it comes to this skill.
Do you use slide anoints then?
Not always. Slide anoints actually aren't a bad option, and we will go over like the anointments I recommend.
Okay.
They aren't necessarily a bad option, and that pretty much just comes down to the like damage formula.
Okay.
So next in the blue tree, we have Cool Hand, 5 out of 5 points. This is the second row on the left. Basically, this just gives us a ton of reload speed. Like I said, Zane is kill skills and See Undead. So we just max this out. This just increases your DPS in like a different way. Like your guns are loaded more often.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have Drone Delivery. This is another way Zane can get grenades out there from his drone. It's just a single point to throw grenades with your drone. And like I said, Zane uses grenades, even though he's a double action skill character. And notably, since you brought this up earlier, this actually doesn't cost you a grenade. So this is just free, and it's just awesome. You can use it with piss grenades again, or hex, or whatever you love.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Then finally, we put 1 point into Salvation, the last skill in this row. This is a life steal skill, bit of a tongue twister, but it's just super handy. Now, the reason I only put 1 point into it is because number one, on Mayhem 10 with Mayhem 10 weapons, your guns are so powerful that you really actually just don't need that much life steal. Cool. Like you just don't. And then second of all, the clone actually heals you with his guns as well. So you have lots of different ways to just keep you topped off. You really don't need more than 1 point in this. Interesting.
All right, cool. That's cool. I didn't know the thing about the clone actually healing you at the same time.
Yeah, that's pretty handy. Weapon duping's pretty cool.
All right, next
we have ThiccFilA's Close. This is like the mini capstone of this tree. This gives all of your kill skills 25% boosted effectiveness, and it also adds 7-second duration to your kill skills as well. So your kill skills will only last for 8 seconds, and then with this skill, they all go to 15 seconds. And you know, it doesn't sound that long, but when you're in the heat of battle, that's a long time, and it's just awesome. So moving on down to the next row, we have Violent Violence. This gives you bonus fire rate as a kill skill. I've said the word kill skill a million times now, but this just once again increases your DPS. You know, when you have faster fire rate, especially try this out with a Monarch. And I believe this is the highest fire rate, like percentage bonus in the game on any single skill. With Seeing Dead on, and you can actually get more points into Violent Violence with Seeing Dead as well. You can get upwards of like 90% fire rate. It's like actually kind of ridiculous. Wow. I hope that's the right number. It gets up there though. It goes high. After that, we have Playing Dirty, another kill skill. This gives you a chance to shoot bonus projectiles. So this is going to synergize most with launchers, with snipers, because those are single projectile weapons. So a weapon like a Stagecoach or a Maggie, which are ×6 and ×25 on the Stagecoach, it only adds 1 projectile. So like a ×6 Maggie would only go to a ×7. So keep that in mind when using this skill. And if you want to maximize your damage with this skill, like your best bet is like an ion cannon. You want to use something
high damage and then that has a single output.
Yeah. Even like ×2, ×3 weapons are okay. But once you go beyond, I would say once you go beyond ×3, just like the effectiveness of it cuts down a lot.
Right.
Now, one thing I should mention, the only reason we spend 4 points here is because this skill is worded a little bit weird. It says Zane's next 5 shots all have a chance to fire an additional projectile. So it sounds like that percentage is each shot. But basically how it's calculated is as soon as you trigger this skill, basically when you trigger a kill skill, you have a chance to trigger Playing Dirty. Once Playing Dirty's triggered, you're guaranteed next 5 shots have bonus projectiles. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not per shot, it's per group of 5. You don't need to max it out because we have the Seeing Dead class mod, which allows you to trigger this per shot once again. It's just like, it becomes a vicious cycle.
Exciting. I like it.
And then next, we move on to Good Misfortune. Now, this is the skill that is so amazing with Seeing Dead. It's another kill skill. Killing an enemy increases Zane's action skill duration, and this skill has diminishing returns. Now, keep in mind, diminishing returns does not mean 0. It just means it diminishes to a certain amount. So when combined with Seeing Dead, you can get infinite action skills. And you notice we only have 1 point in it, and that's because how powerful it is. You only need 1 point there. And you can keep your action skills up as long as you're firing your weapons. As long as you're dealing damage, your clone can trigger this, your drone can trigger this. Pretty much everything in the game can actually trigger this. I've actually gotten it to trigger off the snowball from a snowdrift before.
That's awesome.
Just a little fun fact. And then finally, we get to the capstone of the blue tree. This is Seeing Red. Activating an action skill automatically activates all of Zane's kill skills. Now, one question I get actually a lot about this skill is why do I take Seeing Red when we're using Seeing Dead?
Yeah.
It's really the quality of life. Like, I have movement speed as a kill skill. So like when I'm running through the DLC and my Outrider gets destroyed, I can just activate my kill skills and literally run as fast as the Outrider. It's really just a quality of life action skill. And you can start like you're bossing off with your kill skills already active. It's just a good skill.
All right, cool. Well, that rounds out both of our skill trees. We're not going to put any points in the green tree.
No. So, like I said, you could stick a couple points into ready for action. How I look at this build, though, is the red tree is for the clone and the blue tree is for Zane. And we have enough survivability with some of our gear and also our lifesteal. The green tree is really for defense. Like that is the barrier tree. And you can get the all-rounder, you can get Calm, Cool, Collected and stuff like that. And I don't find myself needing any defense. I like to go full offense with this build. And when we go over some of the gear, actually, you guys will see why, we don't really need that extra defense because we have it in our gear.
Cool. All right, we'll go over that in a little bit. What augments are you taking?
So for the clone, I am using the one called Which One's Real, and I'm also using Doppelbanger. So which one is real? Every time or whenever you summon your clone, and also when you swap places with your clone, basically the enemies that are close to like that swap area will aggro on him. So that is one thing that adds to our survivability. And it's actually pretty nice for areas like the Guardian takedown where you need to get enemies away from the crystals.
Oh, yes.
And just in the game in general, the other augment I would recommend that I'm not using is Schadenfreude, I think is how you pronounce it.
Schadenfreude?
Yeah, Schadenfreude. Basically, that one gives you shields restored when your clone takes shield damage, but we don't need it. And that's kind of a gear thing.
Okay.
I really prefer Which One is Real.
Would that be better for leveling, maybe?
Yeah, for leveling, it can come in really handy, especially if you find something cool like a Nova Burner while leveling. You can fill that up quicker.
Cool.
Which was actually a shield I found once while leveling, and it was really strong.
And which was the other one that you said?
Doppelbanger. So basically what Doppelbanger does is holding down your action skill button while your clone's active. This will blow the clone up into an explosion, which on Mayhem 10 deals upwards of just over 1 million damage, which is okay. It can delete buddy systems. It can delete some like trash mobs and stuff like that. Mainly, I actually use it to reposition the clone.
Okay.
Like when I'm doing a proving ground and you have to move to the next area and you don't want to run all the way, clone swap, then have to run all the way again, you can just blow up your clone and then move him to wherever you want. It's just like one of those quality of life things. And I always find myself taking it over any of the other augments. Like Doppelbanger is always my top pick every time. And then I pick my second one.
Interesting. That's cool. What about the drone augments?
So for the drone augments, we're actually using Bad Dose and Boomsday. Bad Dose is a drone augment that puts a little radiation dot on enemies. Now, this dot doesn't deal almost any damage at all, and it's not 4 damage. What it does is it gives you a little bit bonus fire rate and a little bit bonus movement speed, and it also slows the enemy fire rate and their movement speed by just a little bit. That effect isn't super noticeable. What I really recommend using this skill for is getting that radiation dot out there. Because once you have a radiation dot on enemies, when you kill them, they will explode into more radiation. And that's actually probably the biggest reason to use this skill, in my opinion.
Oh.
And then we're also using Boomsday. So this adds a little rocket pod to the Sentinel, which deals some good damage. It deals I believe 600,000 damage, but you can boost this with action skill damage and splash damage, I believe. What's really cool about Boomsday is, you might not notice it on enemies like the Guardian takedown, but what I've actually been doing it with it recently is targeting death skulls and buddy system drones.
Oh, interesting.
So, it's actually pretty cool. You can actually get rid of buddy systems with your drone, and he deletes them pretty quickly with Boomsday.
So you got rockets and grenades coming out of your drone. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so what would you say this build excels at? Is it mobbing, boss fights, support, speedrunning?
This build excels at everything. As like, I don't want to sound like vain, but the clone is very strong. He does so much damage, and there's some awesome weapons you can give him for mobbing, and there's also some awesome weapons you can give him for bossing. Definitely speed running. It's for all of the above. It really is. Support. It's great for support because, if you have friends you need to carry, you can do it.
Always deflect the enemy damage and help res and stuff like that. That's cool. Just to re-emphasize, does this build work even at Mayhem 10?
Yes. True takedown, Guardian takedown, all the above.
Okay, so what is the clone damage equation? Please explain this to me.
So the clone damage equation is something that I wanted to briefly touch on. We're not going to go into it too in depth, so don't worry. But there are some bonuses that I've basically just hopped into the game, tossed on every item I could find, and I just found everything that boosts the clone damage. And every time I toss on an item, I see how it adds up, and I made a little equation. So I'm just going to read it off. Okay, so real quick, we're talking specifically about double barrel. So in the first little parentheses is the card damage times 0.7 times the mayhem scale.
Why 0.7?
So the 0.7, the clone actually gets a small penalty whenever you item dupe to him. He only gets 70% of the card damage.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's times 0.7.
Okay.
And then for the mayhem scale, recently they buffed all the action skills, and they all get different boosts throughout the different mayhems. For mayhem 10, it is times 31.
Okay.
So it gets a 31 times multiplier in there. So that is the first little parentheses, card damage times 0.7 times 31 for Mayhem 10. And next we have the clones gun damage bonuses. This is Donnybrook, boom enhance, double barrel bonus, and also shield weapon damage. These are all additive together. Basically, where it says shield weapon damage, that is with a shield like the Brawler Ward. So you might not know this, Liz, but the clone actually gets a copy of your shield. Which is
no, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So you could put Nova shields onto him. You could put an Old God onto him. And specifically right now I was talking about the Brawler Ward. So that's additive with Donnybrook and Boom Enhance. Next, this is multiplied by action skill damage. This is that new roll you can get on class mods now for action skill damage. You can get that on your class mods now. So it's multiplied by that. Then it's multiplied by splash. So the clone actually gets your splash bonuses, AoE on artifact, all that. Then that is multiplied by Zane's barrier. So the clone gets amped shots through Zane's barrier as well. Multiplied by debuffs. These are the piss grenades, the eruption. I actually use the eruption a lot nowadays with the clone, just as a debuff. Also the execute, if you've ever used the execute pistol.
I have not, actually.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a debuff. It makes enemies weaker.
Okay.
Then this is multiplied by the Old God / other elemental bonuses. Now, I want to put an asterisk on other elemental bonuses because the Old God is the only thing I could find to affect the clone's damage because he gets a copy of your shield. So the clone doesn't get stat rolls on your artifact or class mod. Like he doesn't get assault rifle damage. He doesn't get elemental bonuses on the class mod. The only elemental bonus I've found is the Old God, but if there's another one that gets added to the game in the future, I would imagine it gets added in with the Old God. And then finally multiplied by amp. So once again, you can give your clone a shield. You can give him an amp shield. You can give him a rerouter, a 0.M, or a one-shotter, and you can give him more damage that way. And that's it.
Wow. That's crazy. That's an amazing. How did you have help with this, or did you make this? Did you just
this one
I yourself?
Yeah, this one I did by myself. A lot of other stuff I've gotten a lot of help with, but this one I just hopped into the game. I went through my bank. I put on every artifact and class mod I could find to see what would boost his damage, and this is just everything I found. There might be more stuff. For all we know, you never know. But yeah, that's what I have for now.
That's amazing.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead, please.
One other thing I should mention is the clone does not get anointments from your guns. So this is also with an asterisk. He can actually trigger the 500% elemental crit novas, which is really cool. It's a new anointment from the cartel event. And if you are holding a weapon with that anointment, he can actually trigger it. So he'll create his own novas when he hits crits, which is really cool. And also he will get splash damage on action skill end. However, keep in mind, this isn't on his weapon. You can give him a weapon and then swap to a different one with splash damage on action skill end. And if you trigger it, the clone will get the damage boost. Now, this isn't because he gets the anointment though. This is only because he gets your splash bonuses.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, lots of interesting little tidbits to learn about with Zane. This is cool. So let's talk about the skill tree. Why did you not put a point into fractal frags?
Okay, so actually that's a really important one. I don't know when I figured this out. I've known this probably just from the old days of playing with the clone. But when you put a point into fractal frags, he goes through this little grenade throw animation and he's not shooting his guns while he's throwing grenades. And with the See Undead class mod specifically, so if you're not using See Undead, which you should, but whatever. If you're not, you could stick a point in here. But with the See Undead class mod, since Fractal Frags is a kill skill, he will spam grenades. And if you don't believe me, put on a Hex grenade, put on a See Undead, and deploy your clone and just watch what happens.
Cool. All right, cool. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is an interesting question and always relevant considering how many times we've had 3 extra levels in the game added. Like every DLC.
Yeah.
So if you had 3 more skill points to add to your talent tree, where would you put them?
So this kind of goes back to when I was talking about Cold Bore, how we had those 3 floater points. I think the next best skills would be Prey Munitus in the red tree, which gives you magazine size, or Ready for Action in the green tree. Now, Ready for Action in the green tree actually gives you quicker shield recharge delay and quicker shield recharge rate. This is really good and synergizes so well with the Guardian rank skill Topped Off. So if you know what the Guardian rank skill Topped Off does, basically it gives you it gives you 200% cooldown rate when you're at full shields. So Zane has this awesome skill that helps you get full shields. Now in this build, and like when we talk about the gear a little bit more, we don't really need that. And like I said, we'll talk about that in a second. But that's where I would spend the points next. Personally, I'm always grabbing Ready for Action. It's an awesome skill.
All right, fantastic. What weaponry and gear will you be utilizing for this build?
All right, so first of all, when it comes to the weapons, the very first thing I want to say is, once again, try everything. The clone is actually really great with a bunch of weapons now. Okay. I'm going to obviously specifically talk about the couple ones I like, but seriously, go try everything. Let him shoot a Scourge, let him shoot a Hive, give him a Plague Bearer, a Backburner, and yeah, just try stuff out. Now, specifically for mobbing, pretty much the first gun I picked up and gave to the clone, because they buffed him when DLC 3 came out, was the Beacon. Now, this is a really awesome pistol from the new DLC. And actually, there's a good point here I want to mention, kind of back to the clone formula. Remember how the clone gets your splash bonuses? Well, the Beacon actually shoots splash damage, and when you reload it, it makes these novas. So not only does it shoot splash damage, but when you reload it, you get more splash damage. And if you have splash on your class mod and artifact, the clone is going to benefit from that. And it's really awesome for mobbing. Now, I actually pair this with the Transformer Shield. So I give him a Shock Beacon and I pair it with a Transformer. This helps your survivability. This helps his survivability. And especially when you kind of want to lean on splash guns, because those are guns you can actually boost, it's pretty nice just to have like, you could also actually go Radiation and Red Suit too. But like,
smart.
Yeah. The clone will kill himself with a splash weapon. And once again, if you don't believe me, give him a Nukem and watch what happens.
Okay, so what gear would you consider in this loadout to be essential?
I would say Transformer and splash weapons.
Okay.
One other weapon I wanted to talk about actually is the Sandhawk. Okay. The Sandhawk also shoots splash damage, and the Backburner. The Sandhawk and the Backburner are probably the 2 best weapons for bossing, and actually the OPQ system, which we could talk about a little bit, but also the Beacon for mobbing. Just like these are like the four guns that I would say to give the clone.
Do you think the OPQ system is still valid, considering it can only be acquired at level 57?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure from 57 to 60, it's like 30% weaker or something, which, is a decent hit. But at the same time, that's a class mod roll is 30%. You know what I mean? So like, it's really not that much when you think about it. It's very strong. Now with the clone specifically, I kind of want to talk about one thing with it I found out about the clone. So the Shock Explosion on the OPQ system actually double dips the clone mayhem scaling.
Explain?
So the Shock Explosion on the OPQ system, for those of you who didn't know, the damage is equal to exactly 1 pellet from the OPQ system.
Okay.
Right? So what happens is the clone shoots the OPQ system with all his bonuses. And when since the Shock Explosion is based on that damage, it'll then get all the other damage bonuses again, because it's a new form of damage. And it also actually gets the mayhem scaling, the times 31 I mentioned way earlier. So the shock explosion on the OPQ in the clone's hands does like times 900.
Wow.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's awesome. Interesting.
It's really awesome. It's
hanging on to my OPQ then.
One of my favorite things to do.
What anoint would you put on an OPQ for Zane?
So, you gotta work with what you work with because it was a cartel weapon, remember?
Yeah.
But pretty much just like, Sentinel Cryo. Sentinel Cryo is one of the top anointments for Zane in general. And this is kind of something else I want to touch on real quick is if we look back in Zane's skill trees, which you don't have to pull up right now, but a lot of his skills are gun damage, synchronicity, Donnybrook, violent momentum. I mentioned is huge gun damage. So you kind of want to diversify your bonuses. So Sentinel Cryo is a bonus element. It's not gun damage. You won't get those diminishing returns. You'll get you'll get a whole nother element with all that previous gun damage. And so it just diversify your bonuses. You can also use splash bonuses. Next 2 magazines was recently buffed and it's very good. Maybe not this build specifically. One anointment I want to recommend that is a gun damage anointment is consecutive hits. Okay. Specifically because this works in Fight for Your Life. So when you're at your weakest and none of your kill skills are active, consecutive hits will do work for you. Cool. And I think you can actually stack it up to 200%. So it's actually a pretty decent bonus anyway.
That's awesome.
Especially on a Monarch. That's why you see everyone with consecutive hits Monarchs running around.
Ooh, interesting. I did not know that. I'm gonna have to check that out. What grenade mod do you use? Is that they use it's piss?
I pretty much just use piss grenades. Yeah. Keep in mind that grenades can actually trigger the See Undead class mod. So generally a piss grenade. Otherwise I'd recommend a hex grenade just because it has so many like hits on the enemy and like the dot can trigger it as well. Also, another fun fact for Zane players is crits you hit with your grenades can also trigger brain freeze. So you can actually freeze enemies with a hex grenade as well.
What element for a hex grenade?
The element doesn't matter so much. Once again, you could think of using like radiation damage. I kind of touched on that with Bad Dose, the drone augment.
Yeah.
Just to get that radiation dot out there and get some more explosions and novas and stuff.
Fair, cool. Yeah, radiation hexes are my favorite as well. So
yeah.
That's interesting. Will this build work if you don't have the proper weapons and gear yet?
So I would say the main piece of gear that would hold you back is the See Undead class mod. With that being said, though, Zane's clone got buffed tremendously, and you can still make this work. However, maybe I might lean more towards Calm, Cool, and Collected instead of going deep into the blue tree and then being just more support for your clone. With that being said, though, like you can also, how I mentioned the Guardian rank skill topped off, you can actually shoot shock splash weapons at your feet to keep your Transformer shield for when your clone goes down. And this will also trigger topped off, which brings him back super quick. So if you don't have the See Undead class mod for infinite action skills or whatever, then you can kind of abuse that loop.
Cool. What would you say are any alternatives to the gear? Like, say I don't have all the cool gear that you have. What could I use instead?
Like I said, focus on splash weapons. I would say the Scourge is a really good rocket launcher that you can find as a world drop. It's definitely not on the same level as like the Beacon and the Sandhawk in the clone's hands, but that used to be actually the top weapon for most clone users before all of this new stuff came out,
Fantastic. All right, cool. And where can we get those? You said the Scourge you can get as a world drop?
The Scourge is a world drop. Where I would recommend farming it is from the Cistern of Slaughter. If you go to wave 5, round 3, maybe round 4, but there's this enemy called Alicritus Vanda. They're like a little boss enemy. You'll see skulls on the map. And basically what you want to do is kill them and then end the round. Like, don't finish the round, and you can just farm round 5 over and over again.
All right, cool. Thank you for that tip. Sometimes it's difficult to like have to research exactly where to find things. I want players to, if they're trying to build these builds, want them to know where they can get their stuff.
Yeah.
And the Sandhawk we get from?
The Sandhawk's from Katagawa Jr. The Beacon actually comes from DLC 3 from a named enemy named Jarek Logan. He is on the second to last map, right near the elevator. So there's an elevator where you can fast travel to, and he's at the top of the elevator to the right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, so what Guardian rank talents should players focus on and get the most bonus stats for this build?
I would say, I mentioned this already, Topped Off. Topped Off is so great, especially for Zane when I'm using the clone and he's like dying or I'm blowing him up with Doppelbanger. I often abuse Topped Off. And like even in some other builds, I'll wear small shields like the Band of Sidorak. So it recharges super fast and then I get Topped Off.
Cool. What Guardian rank talents, if any, should a player disable to use this build?
I don't think there's a specific one you really need to disable to make this work. Another notable thing is maybe Hollow Point even, because the clone can trigger Hollow Point for you. And since he does a bunch of damage, the Hollow Point will have a bunch of damage behind it.
And that's one that you should disable or keep enabled?
No, keep that on. Keep that on.
I was gonna say. Okay.
Yeah, my bad.
No worries. Okay, so when spending a Guardian token, what are the stats that players should focus on spending their tokens to obtain for maximum min-max potential?
So the stats themselves on the left, I personally don't really worry about. Like when the game first came out and I didn't really pay attention to all this stuff, I would spend it into like gun damage and crit damage. Right. I'm pretty sure all these bonuses are their own thing. They're basically like multiplicative all on their own. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'll find out for sure later. But there's not much you have to worry about. I would say the perks in the Guardian rank tree are way more important than the percentage bonuses.
All right, cool. That's good to know. Those are easy enough to get as well.
Yeah. Scrap Trap Farm.
Yeah.
It's the best spot.
Very good. Yeah, that's a very good recommendation as well.
If you want quick Guardian rank.
For sure. How did you test this build? Did you test in the Iron Range, Grey Ward, Tron?
Usually I can just imagine in my head like if it's going to be good or not. With this build, and when I was testing out like how strong the clone was, I immediately knew he was insanely powerful. So I just hopped straight into the takedowns.
Okay, just go straight for it.
I kind of live inside the takedowns a little bit.
That's awesome. You and Lazy Data, I love it.
Yeah.
What are some of the initial impressions when you tested this build?
How powerful they made the clone. It's pretty awesome. I really appreciate it. I was a clone boyo when this game first came out, and I'm glad to see him shine.
That's awesome. Get your buffs.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. What do the numbers look like compared to similar builds, both ones that you have crafted and ones you've seen other community members display?
So pretty much once again, the clone is very strong. Like I said, on Mayhem 10, he gets a times 31 multiplier. He also does get the 70% penalty. Right. This ends up equaling out to, I think, 21 times in the end. So he's like insanely powerful. Like there are setups on every character, like Minesweeper on Moze, Ties That Bind on Amara. Like everyone can keep up with this stuff. You know what I mean? It's not anything like super out there, but it's very strong. Like he's competing for some of the highest damage for sure.
Great. Do you feel like there are any changes that Gearbox could make to further refine this build without making it drastically overpowered? Specifically
for this build, I don't think so. There are random guns you maybe with that the clone doesn't shoot right. Like I handed the clone a redistributor once and he shoots like 3 shots every 5 minutes. Like he just, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he just doesn't shoot some guns correctly. So maybe, the clone AI a little bit. Otherwise, maybe some stuff in the green tree. I feel like the green tree really is lacking in like good skills. And that's why you kind of see me avoid it.
Right, fair. Since we're towards the end of the segment, unfortunately, sad to see you go, but I would like to know if there's anything that you could tease us with, maybe a build that you have that you could discuss with us next time we have you on the program.
So I was thinking about this when you guys first asked me what build to bring on the show. I wanted to start off strong with the clone, especially because he recently got buffed. But I have a pretty cool Nova only build that can get through the takedowns that maybe we could go over next time.
Cool. And that's a Zane build as well?
Yeah.
Cool. Exciting.
Mayhem 10, true takedown.
I think that's it. Unfortunately, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And thank you so much, ThiccFilA, for joining us as well. And where can we find you on the internet? First of all, thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate all of you. I love the community here. Thank you guys for inviting me onto the show. Seriously, that's like such an honor. Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you guys. You guys can find me on youtube.com/ThiccFilA. That's where I started out when the game came out. That's where everybody knows me from. But I also recently made partner on Twitch at thank you. Twitch.tv/ThiccFilA_, and also on Twitter, ThiccFilA_. So there you guys
That's
go.
2 C's, guys.
Yeah,
Thick
two
with
C's. Thick with 2 C's. FILA.
I love it. That's a hilarious name. I love that it's totally random too. You just like made it up out of the blue.
Yeah.
Okay, ThiccFilA. This build is truly the epitome of double trouble. Double barrel is a concept I'll not soon forget when I hop on Zane in the future. With the case having been made, the build is too strong, and I think as a result, it's only fair to hereby declare you an ultimate Vault Hunter.
Let's get some background applause noises. I'm just kidding. Thank you.
Bounty of Blood and Guardian Takedown are both out now, so visit your local news station, give Double Barrel a try, and let us know the results via your favorite social media platform. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in 2 weeks on August 6th on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and SoundCloud at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Happy looting to all you Ultimate Vault Hunters out there. We'll see you next time.